Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Marta and I am the chef and author of Sense and Edibility, a site where I teach you everything you need to know about cooking, baking, and cocktail making. And today I want to show you how I assembled all of these pasteles by myself in less than 3 hours. Probably less than 2.5 hours. Now, I'm not a superhero. I'm no different than you. I mean, even though something like this is pretty epic. I mean, I'm a normal person. Don't flood me with fan mail. But what I wanted to do was show you that it is possible for one person to shop for, prepare, cook, and assemble pasteles en masse for Pasteles season, for the holidays, and I think this kind of proves it. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to properly assemble pasteles. I'm going to show you how to prepare your space. If you have a small kitchen, you can still do this, but I'm going to show you how to set up your assembly line, most efficiently wrap your pasteles, how to tie them properly, eventually how to store them, and in the next episode I'm going to show you how to cook them and unwrap them, because you have to unwrap them before you eat them. But before we get into this video, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel and sign up for notifications so that you can be notified every time I post a new video like this one. In the meantime, let me show you how I assemble and wrap dozens of pasteles by myself. The very first thing you should do whenever you're getting ready to assemble your pasteles is test the masa. So what I do is I give my masa a stir, and then I put probably about 1.5 tablespoons on a microwavable safe plate, and then I put a very damp, like sopping wet paper towel over it, and I microwave it for 20 seconds on high. Now you could see my paper towel wasn't as wet as it should have been because it's kind of sticking to the masa, but then I give the masa a taste to see if it has enough adobo or sazon, and I just assess whether or not I need to adjust the seasoning. Obviously this is good because I ate the rest of it. I give my masa a generous stir. I want everything to be nicely incorporated. And then it's time to start assembling. But first I want to set up an assembly line. So I get my masa, my achote oil, my pepper slices. I use manzanilla olives, garbanzo beans or chickpeas. You can add raisins. And on the far left, I have a red bowl full of really spicy peppers. I also have on the left my parchment sheets that I bought, and off to the right where you can't really see them are my banana leaves. I get all the cutting of the twine out of the way before I start assembling my masa. For the spicy pasteles, I'm using a red and white striped twine to indicate that they're spicy, and for my regular pasteles without any spice, I use white twine. And I just make these cuts about 18 to 24 inches long. That way I have enough room to wrap my pasteles without issue. Start by laying out your sheet of parchment paper, and then you want to put your prepared soft pliable banana leaf right in the center. As you can see, I've cut mine down. I don't want to wrap the entire pastel in the banana leaf. I just want to get that flavor. And then I'm going to take about 1.5 teaspoons of the achote oil that we made in the earlier episode and rub it on the leaf. This is going to keep the masa from sticking too much to the leaf. Now I'm going to take a 4-ounce portion scoop, and I'm going to drop it right in the middle and make a well. So you're going to create an oval shape, but create a well in the center of that oval shape so that you can drop 1/3 or half of a cup of the meat with its juices in the center. And then I add my add-ins, which are my sliced pimento peppers, my manzanilla olives, and a pinch of garbanzo beans or chickpeas. Now I'm going to fold the paper so that the long edges meet after I put that garbanzo back. And then I'm going to fold over 1/2 inch of the long edge to kind of give me some stability when I'm trying to wrap it. I pinch these and then I use my fingers to, condense the masa within the folds. Now I'm going to create another inch fold and I'm going to seal it with my thumbnail. This just keeps everything kind of anchored. And I'm going to do it again on the other side. And now what I'm going to do is kind of use a karate chop to press the masa into the center of my bundle and do the same on the left side and fold up the two short ends to meet in the middle. Now I'm going to flip this over and set this off to the side. Flipping it over keeps it from unwrapping, obviously. All I do is repeat this process, just filling the masa and wrapping the bundle up. And I'm going to use the first bundle to gauge the size of my second bundle because you want both Pasteles bundles to be the same size before you wrap them or tie them. Now to tie them, I'm going to make a loop with my string and nestle it under the bundle or yunta of Pasteles. Now I'm going to take the short cut ends or the cut ends of the string, pull them through the loop, and then off to the sides. I'm going to center the string on the middle of the bundle and I'm going to flip it over. Then I'm going to take the cut ends and put them underneath the twine the two pieces of twine that you see on the far edges. Bring those up, cross them over, twist them, and then I'm going to flip the bundle back over, slide it under the middle string section. This just anchors everything. When you slide them under, it anchors it so it doesn't move around too much. And now I'm just going to tie it like I'm tying my shoelaces. I'm going to create a knot, form 2 loops, wrap them around, seal them, and then I'm going to double knot it. So that is how you tie your yuntas together. Now, to make sure I know what I'm making, I label it carne de guineo, CDG. That means it's a pork pastel with guineo masa. And I'm just repeating this process. I want to show it to you again. This is super speed. How to bundle it, how to pack them. And now I want to show you slowly, because these were made with the spicy peppers, I'm using the red twine. Now I want to show you slowly how I wrap it. You take your loop, take your cut ends and pull them through the loop, off to the sides. Center your string on the bundle. Make sure your pasteles are nice and lined up, and then flip the bundle over. Slide the cut ends under the 2 strings on the sides. And then you're going to bring them up, twist them around one another, flip the bundle back over, bring them around the sides, anchor it under the center string, bring these 2 sides up, form a knot, make 1 loop, wrap the string around the loop, pull the other string through to create a second loop, just like you're tying your shoe, and then double knot it to make sure it doesn't unravel as you're working with them or putting them in the freezer. Label it. This is also carne de guineo, so CDG. And then we're going to place them on sheet pans and freeze them or pack them into Ziploc bags. As you can see, you actually get into a rhythm when you start making your pasteles or wrapping your pasteles, especially if you have that assembly line set up. The assembly line is super important because it keeps you flowing in the right way, so that you're not, taking too much time doing one thing or doing another thing or going out of order. Let me answer some frequently asked questions I get about how to assemble pasteles. The reason why I always test my masa before I start assembling my pasteles is because there is nothing worse than months or weeks later taking the time to boil your pasteles, unwrapping them, getting your mouth ready for some bomb pasteles, and it tasting like poo-poo. I mean, I've experienced it before and it's not a fun feeling. I've also experienced where somebody gave me pasteles but didn't tell me they were pasteles de arroz or rice pasteles. And the way me and my husband flipped on that one was wild. So I always test a small amount of masa for the pasteles to make sure that it has enough salt or enough broth or enough flavor in general. And you always have to do it with some type of damp cloth over it, because if not, it's going to burn to a crisp. You want to mimic the steaming that's going to happen in the pot when you actually boil the pasteles, which is why you use a super damp paper towel. Since we already tested the fillings after we cooked them, there was no need for me to test the filling with the masa. I know some people, and I've also recommended it in the past, where you prepare one single pastel and you boil that and you taste it all together. The older I've grown, the more I realize that it's a waste of energy, because you're boiling a whole pot of water for no reason, or not for no reason, but for one pastel. And it takes longer to accomplish the same goal, which is, how does the masa taste? So if you just put a little bit on a plate, microwave it real quick, you're gonna get the same result. You're gonna be able to determine if it's too salty, or if it's not salty enough, or if it's not flavorful enough, and you can change it before you start assembling all of your pasteles. Now, if it's too salty, the best way to remedy that is to add more guineo. So just grate a few more guineo and toss it into the masa and you should be good. If it's not salty enough, add more adobo, or if you want to add more sazon, or add, you can just add salt to it to make it, salty enough. A lot of people wonder why I go through the trouble of doing a red striped tie versus a white tie, and that's just an easy way for me to tell that these are spicy pasteles versus pasteles without spice. That's something that my abuela Lelia taught me. It just makes life so much easier, especially if you're gifting these to people. You want them to know that this is going to be pretty spicy, and so that they can watch out for that. I tie my pasteles in a very, to me, unique way. I've never really seen other people tie them like this. It's kind of like my signature tie. You don't have to go through all the trouble of tying it the way I do. Just make sure that the junta, which is what two pasteles are called, are tied together so that they don't, flop all around when you go to handle them or when you go to cook them. You want them to stay together. This is typically how pasteles are packaged in tubes called juntas. And usually when you gift pasteles, you gift them in docenas, so you gift them in six juntas, so 12 docenas. That's usually how, if you go to a Pasteles party, that's what you're leaving with. You're probably leaving with a docena or two. But yeah, so I like the way I wrap my Pasteles because they look like little presents. Yay! I add quite a bit of meat to my pasteles. There is a term called pasteles ciegos, which means that your pasteles don't have a lot of meat in them, and it's kind of an insult. It really, I mean, it's shade. It's some real shade. If somebody says that you have blind, pasteles ciegos means you have blind pasteles, which means that you were really cheap with the meat and you didn't give them a lot of meat. So I have never been accused of that, but you know, it is what it is. I'd rather my pride be intact than not. So be generous with your meat, especially if you're gonna eat them. I mean, add a good amount of meat filling. Nobody wants to just eat pastel de guineo or pastel de yuca. I mean, if that's the case, you might as well just boil some masa and be done with it. Add meat. Don't be ashamed or afraid to add more meat. Do your thing. You want to use parchment paper, not wax paper, when wrapping your pasteles. If you use wax paper, what's going to happen is when you start to boil your pasteles to cook them, the wax paper is going to start releasing that wax. It's going to get on your masa and it's going to taste like you're eating a candle. You don't want to use wax paper. I have found that the parchment paper that I buy at Las Americas, or parchment that is sold by vendors specifically for pasteles, is of a thicker quality than store brand parchment. I ran out of parchment that I got from Las Americas or from the Latin market, and I had to use store brand parchment. I'm not a happy camper. But it is what it is. I had to finish wrapping my pasteles. So try to go for this thicker weight parchment paper. Avoid wax paper completely. I do know some people that use aluminum foil to wrap their pasteles. I am not a fan. I don't judge or have any opinions, good or bad, about people who do use aluminum foil, but I'm not a fan of cooking my food wrapped in aluminum if I can avoid it. So that's why I don't use it. Yeah, that's the main reason why I don't use it. You can wrap your pasteles in aluminum foil if that's what you have to do. Just use heavy duty aluminum foil, I suppose. I've never done it, so I would say heavy duty is the best to use because you're going to be handling them and putting them in and out of the freezer. So no judgment to people who do use aluminum foil to wrap your pasteles. I just don't do it because I'm not a fan. As I explained in the video, I mark my pasteles so that I know what's what, right? Because this is a lot of pasteles and this will last us throughout the holiday season and into the year. We do eat pasteles year round. Seriously, comes Christmas, I'm gonna forget what I made. So what I do is I write a little note or a little code on each junta of pasteles to let me know what they are. Again, I always wrap my pasteles with a ribbon that indicates whether or not it's spicy or not. And here I've written PDG. So this is pollo de guineo, chicken filling with masa de guineo or banana, and it's spicy. And then here we just have plain carne de guineo. So this is pork filling with guineo masa, and this is a pollo chicken de yuca. So this has masa de yuca instead of guineo. If you're just making one variety or one type of pastel, you don't need to label them because they're all going to be the same, right? But this is my way of keeping everything in order so that, you know, when I want spicy chicken pasteles, I can just go into the freezer and look at it and grab it and make it. Pasteles are most often stored frozen because they're laborious. We make them in bulk and there's no way we're going to eat all this in the time it takes for it to go bad, which is about 4 days in the fridge. So instead, pasteles are the ultimate freezer recipe. You can pack them into gallon-size, freezer-safe food storage bags, label them, and put them in your freezer. These will keep in the freezer for up to a year. No problem whatsoever. They are multi-wrapped, especially if you put them in freezer storage bags. You can keep them for up to a year. Just make sure you label them when they were made. So that's what I normally do. I pack them in the gallon-size freezer storage bags, and I put them in my freezer, and that's that. You can store them in the refrigerator for up to 4 days. The masa starts to get oxidized. It starts to get a little bit funky after that. So I recommend, if you're not going to consume all of this, which you're probably not, within 4 days, then go ahead and freeze. The recipe on my site makes about 19 or 20 pasteles, depending on how generous you are with the meat. I'm generous, so it makes 19. So if you want to double that or triple that to have your pastele making party, then go for it. Don't ask me how much to sell these for, because you shouldn't be selling my recipe. Don't. I mean, let's be real, right? I mean, this is a recipe that I'm teaching you. I mean, unless you're giving me a cut. Unless you're giving me royalties, then we could talk. But yeah, I'm not going to tell you how much to sell pasteles for, because one, it's illegal unless you have a food handler's license and a license to sell food in your county. But two, yeah, I mean, give me a cut if you're going to be selling my recipe. If not, then enjoy it for yourself. Enjoy it with your family and friends. Thanks. That's it for this episode on how to assemble and wrap pasteles. On the next episode, I will be showing you how to actually get to the part that's the funnest, which is boiling them and eating your pasteles. So I hope you stay tuned. Don't forget to like this video if you like this video, and subscribe to my channel and sign up for notifications so that you can get notified every time I post a new video. And I will see you on the next episode. Bye.